Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the TJOmega channel. Now, I am in vacation mode at the moment, which means no shout-outs are given. They're all on pause, not naming the episode number because I frankly don't know what order I'm going to post things in. We usually just backup videos so that, the channel stays active while I'm out of town. And I want to work more tokusatsu into the channel again. You've probably noticed that over the last few months, because my baby Kamen Rider is hitting a really nice little boom period of awareness. It's kind of weird to see it grow and expand and hit so many other people. But that is for another time. Today, we need to talk about the brand new tokusatsu on the block. Project Red has officially begun. Super Space Sheriff Gavan Infinity has debuted. So, I'm going to talk about this episode. I'm going to hop around a little bit. In general, we're going to talk about it in the order and sequence of the episode. But for the most part, I'm just going to hop around, give my general thoughts on things. This is not going to be any kind of deep analysis or anything. It's mostly just going to be me going like, oh, well, this is cool. Oh, well, this could use work. Because this does have concerns for me. I'll go ahead and tell you that right off the bat. I will say it's interesting they decided that the original scene, the very first visual in this, needed to be an invasion fleet from Cybertron from Transformers 1. That's a fascinating choice. Really does look like it, right? I thought this was like similar, like Dyson Sphere type planet with like upper layer, lower layer. No, it's like some kind of spaceship encroaching kind of thing. But it's a lead up to what is actually one of the most impressive starts to a tokusatsu I've ever seen. We get this enormous space battle between a bunch of generic bots and the spaceships that we've seen as part of this series and promotion. So we saw how each of them are unique in this fight. They all come with like what seems like an auxiliary vehicle attached to them that becomes the weapon once they turn into the robot modes. So that's kind of how they're coming up with like it's an alternative to like distinct Zords, if that makes any sense. And it's almost like seems like every Gavan, every like space sheriff actually has their own. So this is not like a Power Ranger idea of, well, we'll just swap between weapons. No, it's almost as if everyone just has their own unique spin on this same mecha. Okay, we'll see if that holds up. Maybe not. It's a really, really cool start to a tokusatsu show. I will give it that. It's a really, really cool start. Also, wasted no time in showing off our space sheriffs. The three we knew were coming: Infinity, Bushido, and Luminous. But we also have two more in the back. Now, typically, I would think they would just be filling in the shots because honestly, they look it. They look like digital recolors of the other suits because we have a bronze version of Luminous and a purple version of Gavan. And I wouldn't expect them, if they were going to duplicate suits for other space sheriffs, I would not expect them to duplicate Gavan's suit, especially in a color that, like, on the color wheel is only one notch off. That feels like, a little bit too close to like their lead hero. I think they'd want to keep him looking unique. So I'm like half divided on this one of like, maybe these are just recolors to make the shot look cooler and to show that there are more than just three. But the fact that they are holding unique weapons that are very obviously toyetic, that also makes me think this is probably what they're really going to look like, and we will see them eventually. It's just going to be weird, like having the recolor suits. With, I don't know. We will see. We'll see. There's a lot to process here. And this scene, like, there's no context to this scene. It's like they just cut to a completely different thing after this. So this could be this very well could be like an X-Aid setup where like one of the first shots you see in the opening is actually how the series finishes. So we will see. Now, they start just to go into like the overall plot here for a second. Haven't I seen this before? Aliens living amongst humans on Earth? Like, this is This is Deca Ranger, right? Like, this is just the plot to Deca Ranger again. And the fact that we're dealing with space police while we do it makes this a little bit worse. Now, granted, I can't remember offhand if in Deca Ranger the aliens on Earth were visible to the public. Obviously, the monsters were, like the actual like villain ones. They were very public and known, but I can't remember if the civilian aliens were known to like normal Earthlings. Can't remember that part, but I do remember like this is still essentially the plot of aliens living on Earth and space police to kind of police the ones that go rogue. So that's a little bit weird. It's a little bit repetitive for me. The part I do like is that we see that there's like a lot of different sections to this particular like organization. The fun part here is that the Gavans come from the documentation department, the paper pushers, which is just a cover. In secret, they are actually the most important branch that are doing the bulk of the fighting of the major threats, which comes across a little bit weird because they don't tell you why it has to be a secret that their best agents are actually on this branch that seems completely innocuous. They don't explain it. Not in this episode, at least, but they do point it out. They lampshade it. So obviously we're going to get something eventually, but it does seem kind of weird right now. And then we also get the overall explanation of the setup here. So we're told that there are multiverses. We are dealing with a multiversal storyline where things can happen on one planet that affects others. And that every planet that they go to has a chance to be different from each other because that's just, how multiple dimensions work. Okay, that's actually kind of interesting. That keeps things fresh. That basically just means that they could do whatever they want with the setting and the story anytime. Just switch which universe they are in at the time, and you're in. That does present story possibilities. I was kind of hoping this seems like the case. I was kind of hoping the Gavans were all going to be like from separate Earths, which it seems like they are, but fighting different battles that we would just jump between, rather than like gather a team like we would with Super Sentai or Kamen Rider, but more like we get to see different agents handling different layers and different dimensions. But as you'll see in this episode, that's not how it's going to go. Unfortunately. I'm not going to go into characters right now because like I haven't gotten a good read on any of like the secondaries just yet. It's only the first episode after all. You only get like a cursory exposure to any of them. We do have an artificial human in the mix. Our female lead, our main female character here, I guess until Luminous shows up. She is a artificial character, an AI full robot, I assume. I assume robot, or it might be cyborg. I don't know. Again, unexplained. She does keep talking about how she was created, though. So I'm assuming robot. But also, she doesn't really have any mannerisms to act like. She's just kind of like a normal acting girl. Not like a human gear who has like little ticks and you can tell like there's something a little bit different here. This is definitely an artificial life form. No, she's just kind of like there. And if you didn't like flat out tell me she was a computer of some kind, I would not have known. So maybe this is a little bit misdelivered, but we'll see how that one plays out too. Again, this is why I'm not going to go into secondaries too much because they're still very much unknown. I will talk about these two, however, briefly anyway. So this is Rakia and Patran. The big robot being Patran. I hate these two. I started off liking these two because they seemed like a fun little like cop duo. Trying to handle like a ground level threat together, but not quite getting the job done. In that they seemed fine. They're just kind of like trying their best at their job. But then we get to the end of that scene where our lead hero is taking care of the threat, and they're just arresting him to take the credit themselves. They are Mr. Satan coded. And I hate Mr. Satan characters that are full of ego, full of bravado, eager to take the credit for anybody else's work. I know in this case it's because documentation is an undercover thing. It's a, but I don't like these guys. I don't like these guys. And then we have a chief character too, security director. So even this guy does not seem to be like the top brass. Seems like he's mostly like middle management, if anything. I only bring up this slide just to point that part out because it does mean we have room for like higher up agents to show up and like an actual commander or leader of the whole organization, of the whole Galactic Federation Police. Fingers crossed it's the original actor for Gavan at the top, not as specifically, hey, I am the original Gavan, and then this is my desk job now, but maybe just as like a cameo as a new character, that kind of thing. If you want the original Gavan showing up, like dust off the actor who played Gavan, who played like the new Gavan, like the Heisei era Gavan. I would accept that. So let us discuss our lead hero. And honestly, Reiji seems pretty good. He is like a fiery youth type hero, which again, but he's a little bit more laid back. I was going to compare him to Ban from Deca Ranger, because again, when you're flipping a badge like that, when you're actually a literal space police and you've got like it's literally just giving me those vibes left and right. But he is calmer than that. He's like plays it cooler than Bond does, so he's not nearly as fiery or not as out of control. Like he's definitely like an upbeat character, but he's kind of cool about it. He is hiding something because out of nowhere we just have this like tonal whiplash with this like super dramatic flashback to what appears to be a dying mentor or partner. We don't know. So we'll see. He's got a past, and they're implying it, but I do think it felt very shoehorned in. We'll also touch on this guy a little bit later. So Setsuna is going to be our secondary for the show, or at least the second Gavan to show up. We'll talk about that toward the end. He definitely feels like he's going to be the counterpoint, like the super, super serious one in the group. Just to like completely oppose Reiji. We'll see. Again, not going to get too much into characters because we just met all of them. One thing to speak of here are these things. He actually has a name, Gekido. These are fan subs wrote it as Emor Gear. But Emo Gear rolls off my tongue easier, so if I alternate between the two, I apologize. That's how L's and R's work in Japanese, so I'm just going with what works in my tongue. Point being, these little battery dudes are a complete, like I mentioned, like tonal shift when it comes to that like really rough, like really like dramatic flashback. This is a genuine tonal shift because this is overall like played pretty straight. Like they're just doing like this really dramatic space sheriff action thing. And then these cute little batteries with their cartoony faces pop up out of nowhere and they're making cute little Pokemon noises. And it feels way out of place. Like it feels like they're trying to replicate the gimmick from Gav. And it's not working here. It works in Gav because the aesthetic to Gav is ridiculous. So the ridiculous collectible gimmick is going to actually fit in. Here, it just feels weird. Like it doesn't fit the tone that they're going for with any other design element. I don't know. Like I'm not a fan of it. Now, on the other hand, I am a fan of the function. The function is actually neat. So basically, these emo gears are powered by emotion, and every one represents some kind of different emotion. He is shown making targets like very happy, which does subdue them, or Lonely. I believe the one he's doing this one is Lonely, because they're forming tornadoes around them that isolate them from everyone else. So that can be creative. You know, it's like taking the plot of Inside Out and turning it into an offensive weapon. It has potential. It's a neat idea, and it's definitely different from what they've done in the past. It does feel a little bit weird that our main hero is manipulating people's emotions, which feels like a little bit mind controlling, but we'll give it a pass. We'll see how it works out, because it seems like they are focused on positive emotion. They talk about that, like the ship that they fly is powered by positive emotion. The whole reason they journey to another dimension in order to combat a threat is because they have a big surge of negative emotion, or emorgi, which is apparently their term for this like special type of emotional energy buildup that our little collectible gimmick things, or our like dark version, the emorgi are responsible for. Yeah, this is where things get weird plot wise for me, because they're basically talking about emotion as such a powerful threat that is literally like capable of harming entire worlds or more so. We are warned that the expansion of the negative surge will cause a chain reaction, collapsing the multiverse. That seems a little big, right? Now, like, that seems like a little bit too big. So, like, when you endanger the entire planet, that's supposed to be like end game boss type level stuff, you know? Like, your monsters of the week should really be a threat to like local areas, like a city, like a threat to a city. That's acceptable. You know, a threat to an entire country is something that you stop like midway through the season to show that things are getting more serious. World threats should be saved for final boss. Here, here we are actually getting like entire realities are in danger over the threat of this dark emo gear this guy is using. And then you get to the planet where the negative energy is building up, and it's just this dude. It's just this guy turning the sky pink, sitting around with a few cultist friends, looking like a rejected member of an NSYNC tribute band. It's so underwhelming. Like, they made the threat too big. Like, when you tell me that like an infinite amount of Earths are now in danger because this guy's having a bad day, now it's too big. Now it's beyond what my brain can comprehend, and it doesn't fit. You know, it doesn't match. I don't know. Like, it feels like for an episode 1, it feels too over the top. It just feels like they've tried too hard. Um, I don't know. Like, it's I don't know. Like, I think this is where like it goes off the rails. I think this is where like the plot seems a little bit absurd, because I think they went way too big, way too fast. Just make it just some like, okay, like, I don't know why you had to throw the whole like multiverse collapse thing into it just because this guy is basically angry. Let's get into other design work. So I love the design of the alien threats. I'm so happy that it doesn't look like something. It doesn't look like a bat or a spider. It doesn't look like any type of animal or like everyday object. It doesn't look like he's made up of like local mechanical devices. Like, it's just a really neat looking, threatening looking alien creature. And that's all it needs to be. That's what it should be. And I love that design. I love the design of this alien. If they're all like this, I'm going to be so happy. Obviously, the design of Gavan's also really, really good. I mean, I hesitate to figure out how they're going to keep those chrome suits in shape for an entire 50 episode run. That, you know, like, that's going to scratch up so often and so quickly. Like, I can't imagine how many times these suits are going to have to be repaired and replaced. But it looks cool. It does look cool. I will give it that. Um, there's one bit that I liked. And it's the fact that during transformation, they do the thing that the original Gavan did, which is to go to a replay to show everyone like how the suit up works. And they worked in like basically the same references to everything. It was really neat. It's actually a really neat little touch to throw back. Also, I love that the suit does this for the finisher. That's a unique touch. I like that a lot. My whole issue with this is like, how do you separate it out from the other tokusatsus? And honestly, like, if he wasn't Chrome, I probably wouldn't associate this with Metal Hero. I might ask you, maybe, why are there two Kamen Rider series on at the same time? You know, so far, I don't think the show design-wise is doing enough to like really separate itself. It just kind of feels like I'm watching another Kamen Rider at the moment. But again, early, we will see. Design-wise, the thing I'm not into is the weapon. I'm not crazy about this. There's no way. It's so clunky and awkward, and there's so much just junk hanging off of it. This is never how a firearm or sidearm would ever be designed. Absolutely not. It's unwieldy. You can't hide it anywhere. It's way too bulky and heavy, and it's too complicated to use. What do you mean? In order to load in an Emulgear, I have to open up the entire side panel, jam it in, and then close the whole thing back up. Doesn't that just feel clunky? Like, you think back to like the Gokaigers loading keys into their weapons. You think back to Kyoryuger loading batteries into theirs. And that seems so much more efficient and so much like quicker and cleaner than like what this thing has to do. It's because of the overall function. Yes, I'm aware that the gun is also the giant spaceship, which is also the giant robot. And the spaceship, since the spaceship looks good. I'm not arguing the spaceship because it can look heavily detailed and super techno. Like, this makes sense. The extra bulk on there is just technology stuff I don't know. But you can design a spaceship however you want like that. When you have like a weapon of some type, there's logic to how a weapon would be designed. So when you don't apply that logic and it's just a bunch of stuff cobbled together, it doesn't look right. Likewise, I will admit the robot mode does have some clunky element to it, but for the most part, I think I'm going to get used to it over time. So that's not as much of an issue. I don't know. They're doing it because they want the toy sales focused on just the one thing. You know, like they want this one toy to be the best seller all year rather than here's a changing device, here's a robo, you know, here's a toy spaceship, and having like, because it was a brand new series, it's like a safety precaution. This way, there's only one major toy to sell rather than three major toys that would eat into each other's sales. But the result of that is you've just got too many cooks in the kitchen situation where you're just trying to do too much with one thing. And that's not my aesthetics, it's not how I would do it. But I don't know. The robot I can take. The ship I can definitely take. It's that gun mode that I think makes no sense. And that said, the actual fight scene's really cool. Now, obviously, in episode 1, the fight scene's going to be cool because they need to sell people on the new hero. But again, it feels like a Kamen Rider fight. It doesn't feel like it has its own vibe or its own style yet. And again, it could find that as the series goes on, as we introduce more Gavans. But for now, I definitely think it's struggling to find what it is and what will separate it out from the other tokusatsus. So we'll see how it goes. Again, development stuff. They're not wasting time, by the way. Episode 2 is going to introduce Bushido, who does look cool. I like the design. And if this one is sword focused, that's going to be pretty cool as well. It seems like he is going to be. I'm curious to see why there's different Gavans. I'm curious to see how they're going to cooperate, because obviously there's going to be bigger threats that will require more than one. That's the part of the story where I think you could make it unique. But again, if it feels like just a bunch of secondary riders, you know, akin to like Blade, for instance, we're going to get a little bit derivative again. That's like my main issue with a show right now, is that there are just too many elements that do feel derivative. Like I said, I feel like I've seen this plot before because I watched Deca Ranger. I feel like I've seen fight scenes like this before because they're kind of played out the way a Kamen Rider fight scene would be played. It's only the fact that it is like a straight-faced fight in the real world. It only works now because you have Zets taking place in Dream World where everything gets weird. So it's the only thing that's like separating them aesthetically and tone-wise. Otherwise, like, you could convince me, like, if these had just like different helmet designs, you could convince me this is a Kamen Rider series. But that's just the thoughts right now. I do think it has potential. I think there are things that I do like, but there's also things that give me pause. And I want to see how they break away from past series before I really like put a stamp of approval on this just yet. This is going to be one of those where I give it a few. We might do another video in like a month or so to see where they are 5 episodes in. But for now, that's the thoughts on Gavan. I'm kind of lukewarm on it at the moment, but we'll see how it goes. So let me know what you're thinking on the series in the comments below. And as always, I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.